Howdy, y'all. The following is a clip from Objectively Subjective's channel, where we do a show called On Our Last Nerve. Catch it every Friday at 8 p.m. Central Time, and make sure you subscribe to Objectively Subjective, and also the panelists, #Heathen and Faithless Southerner. I hope you enjoy. Don't you laugh at me. So, speaking of definitions, I wanted to talk about the word Islamophobia, which seems to be, we mentioned it in passing last week, but I wanted to delve into this a little bit more because it seems to be a common issue when it comes to the word Islamophobia, what it means and how it's used. So, yeah, first off, misuse of the word can and does happen. I've seen it happen. I don't want this portion of my comments on the matter to be misunderstood in any way, which I'm sure to happen anyway. But
everybody just forgot that you said that.
I'm sure there'll probably be like if there's snippets of this in any social media anywhere, they'll just cut that part out. But so Islamophobia is real, and it's a very well-documented portion of society's dark underbelly. In the United States alone, there's at least 100 anti-Muslim groups, hate groups, that gather around their hatred for Muslims. And so this is a very, very important issue. And we keep seeing attacks on Muslims just because they're Muslim, which is just by definition bigotry. But it's not only bigotry, but a specific kind of bigotry aimed at a certain group. And that's where the word Islamophobia comes in. Now, as I said before, we've witnessed attacks on Muslims merely because of this religion that they have. Now, I think we should start taking these violent actions very seriously and be cautious when addressing the religious about their religion. It must be kept in mind that when you're addressing a human being, you're addressing a human being. That's exactly what they are. So critique of bad ideas is definitely something that, or just ideas in general, is something that I definitely celebrate. But there's a total difference between the critique of ideas and rhetoric and literal attacks on human beings just because of a cultural variable alone. And to me, I think it's atrocious, and it should be condemned whenever it's recognized. And as I said before, your freedom of speech is yours, and my ability to denounce what you say is just as free. So I provided links to the Southern Poverty Center they have like a hate map. And like I said, the anti-Muslim groups alone, there's 100 of those, and that's not even to mention anti-immigrant, which also kind of ties in with Muslim, and several other hate groups are holding this position as well. It's just hatred of this particular group because they are Muslims.
And it goes beyond just Muslim. It goes, what Islamophobia is, I saw a brown person that looked Muslim to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so I went after them. That would be Islamophobia. I attacked or graffitied a mosque because I can't stand Muslims. That would be Islamophobia. And yes, as has been mentioned in the chat, and you mentioned before, that the word does get used in an incorrect way. But that doesn't take away from the well-established meaning of this word that, as we said last week, has been around since the 1960s, that has been used. It's anytime you treat Islam as if it is a geopolitical force coming to take over your country and eliminate your values and destroy your way of life.
Yes. And it's often framed in this, they're trying to overtake Western culture, which is a dog whistle, of course. So, when people say, well, Islam's not a race. Okay, well, it's being framed as a racial, cultural divide.
Yeah.
So that's something that has to be kept in mind as well. And also the context of where all this narrative came from.
Like you said, Islam is not a race.
No.
Islamophobia is treating Islam as if it were a race.
Exactly, and that's the mindset that often gets overlooked when we're having this discussion, because of course Muslim isn't a race, it's a religion, but
so hashtag has a question.
Okay.
I do. The one thing that was noted on one of the atheistic podcasts that I listened to is the Southern Poverty Law Center actually has people speaking out as ex-Muslims listed as Islamophobic. Is that still the case, or
there are
they
some?
Okay.
There are some, and without naming names, because I don't want to name names, there are some that do go above and beyond and outright hate Muslims. And it's understandable. Like when I left, so I left the Pentecostal faith and I was angry when I left. I had a lot of anger. But say I would not compare Pentecostals to the Nazis. I wouldn't say that Pentecostals are all a bunch of goat herding fuckers, things like that. So you can be an you can be an ex anything and be hateful towards it. There are some that go above and beyond. There are some that I find questionable, that I'm like, well, I'm not sure if that was actually the case, because I did say it does get thrown around a bit too often, but definitely it is something that exists. It's been mentioned in the chat. Sikhs wrongly attacked for being Muslim. Sikhs are the ultimate pacifists. In terms of that, especially in today's age. Now there was a time where Sikhs defended themselves, but they had reason to at that time. But yeah, the thing is, like, I look at these people that are listed as, in the Southern Poverty Law. Some of them I've investigated and I found, wow, okay. Others, I don't know completely yet. I don't know exactly how accurately it could be defined as Islamophobic, whatever they said or did. However, that does not at all negate the hundreds and possibly millions of people that do have Islamophobic feelings and have taken action. Well, and that's the thing. Primarily, the vast majority of Islamic people are peaceful. They're just human. They just want to live their day-to-day life, and they've been raised in an area where Islam was the predominant religion. So they don't, like, many of them don't follow their faith all that strictly. I know several Muslims that are great people, people that I would even consider to be humanists.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that there aren't things about the faith that we can call out. We can talk till we're blue in the face about issues with the faith. But when you start attacking the people themselves, that's when it gets a little too far.
Yeah.
And when people treat it as if, like, if we stop hating on Muslims today, then they'll just be in power tomorrow. That's not how that works.
No.
Well, I mean, yeah, and not only that, but especially whenever it comes to Islamophobia and things like that, you're often treating the entire group by the actions of a few, and so we don't treat all Christians like they're the Westboro Baptist Church, right? Nobody makes that. We wouldn't say, well, the Christians are out here to protest soldiers' funerals, right? That's not a comparison we'd make. And I think that given the amount of Muslim people there are in the world, you can make a very clear case that they're not all Osama bin Laden.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And there's no sense in characterizing them as such. We need to get away from the notion that we determine the actions of the whole group by the actions of the outspoken few. And you see this in all walks of life, but it's especially bad here in America against Islam.
Special thank you to all my lovely patrons. I so appreciate your support. Also, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you can get notifications.